Hello everyone, my name is Michael SK and welcome back to Umineko When They Cry episode 4. We're still following Ange around in her timeline, which I believe is the episode 3 timeline where, she's alive underneath Ava because Ava's the only survivor and probably the one who killed most of the people on the island. Again, not really sure with what went down there, but she's like the prime suspect. But either way, I think we're still following these events before Ange decided to jump off of a building and become a supposed witch and go help Battler out with his, games against Beatrice. So we're still picking up some plot points here, and I have no idea who this lovely looking person is. Let us find out.
あんた、ビルのてっぺんから飛び降りたんだって?
We did.
追っかけがうざかったんで、ちょっと巻こうと思って。
Ange and an old gentleman wearing an expensive suit were alone in a massive modern conference room. All of the newest machines for presentations were installed there, but they didn't upset its refined and composed atmosphere, and that alone was enough to make the business-like theme of the room abundantly clear. However, that didn't matter at all to Ange. She carelessly sat on a high-class chair that executives making a salary of several 10 million yen probably sat in, looking aloof from the world.
下の方の階で改装工事してて、転落防止ネットがあるの知ってましたし。
Ange talked about it like it was no big deal, but in reality, it had been a miracle among miracles. To think that she had shot through several layers of safety netting for the remodeling project, been caught in a multicolored banner adorning the atrium and slipped off, only to be softly caught by a final banner, land on the ground without a scratch, and then briskly leave that place. It put Hong Kong movies to shame.
いくらネットがあるの知ってたったって、高さ200メートルの超高層だよ。もしも思い通りにならなかったら、今頃大変なことになってただろうよ。
死んだら死んだで。それまでってことでもいいかなって思いまして。
She was hoping for either two outcomes, or there was going to be one of two outcomes. Either yes, she was just gonna die, or she was gonna go and help Battler out, if that's the scenario that they're talking about here.
まあちょっとした運試しです。若気の至りってことで。
As though saying that she had enough of that topic, Anne shrugged coldly. Seeing that, the old gentleman, who is looking at the world below through a crack in the blinds, cackled.
運試しときたか。いやはや、やっぱり金蔵さんのお孫さんだね。天賦。天の流れに命を預けてもケロリとしてるその度胸。会長も博打に平気で命をかけられる人だったが、これも、後宮の血なのかね。やっぱりあんた、将来大物になるよ。
Yeah, if she gets to the future.
悪いことは言わない。家出ごっこはこの辺で切り上げて、スマデラの家に戻ったらどうだい？
お母さん、実家と仲が悪かったって聞いてます。お葬式で初対面の人の家になんて、行きたくないです。
The Sumaderas are Mom's family. They're an old family from Kyoto, and compared to Mom's frank attitude, unbelievably strict. The only Sumadera I had been on good terms with was Grandpa, who was living apart from his family under the guise of retirement. Mom kept in touch with him too, but she avoided the rest of the family completely, almost hostilely so. So when I went out to play with the Sumadera family, it was always Grandpa's house I visited. When I was young, I didn't really understand it, but I hear that Grandpa was in an extremely weak position, as a man who had moved into his wife's family register, and his relationship with Grandpa was also bad. You might even say that Grandma hated him and confined him to the house. It isn't hard to imagine that because she had a soft spot for Grandpa alone. Mom was also hated by the Sumaderas. Since I was her daughter, they probably hated me quite a bit too. And yet they appeared for the first time at Mom's funeral, shamelessly going on about how big I had gotten, like they could actually act like family after all this time. When Aunt Ava died, I would inherit all the wealth of the Ushiromiya family. If that wasn't what they were after, there's no way they would have been able to say such disgusting words.
まあ、一人ぼっちになっちまって、自暴自棄になりたいエンジェちゃんの気持ちもわからなくもないな。
自暴自棄とかじゃないです。小うるさいエヴァおばさんもやっとくたばったんで、久しぶりにのびのびと散歩してるだけじゃないですか。周りが大げさに騒ぎすぎなだけです。
Of course, everyone's after the vast Ushiromiya wealth I bear. They must think that becoming my guardian means they'll be able to do as they please with that wealth. Just how many people have tried to get close to me, acting like they want to be a substitute parent?
エンジェちゃんも辛いことがあったら、俺でよかったらいつでも相談してな。
Uh-huh.
エンジェちゃんのこと、実の孫みたいに思ってるんだからさ。
はあ、当面はノーサンキューということで。それより、話を戻してください。
She's come up with some English here and there.
エンジェちゃん。
English, if you will.
何度聞かれたって、俺が隠してることは何もないよ。
Only a person that's hiding something would admit that they're hiding nothing.
あの日のロッケン島の唯一の生き残りが会長なんだ。その会長が何も語らずに言っちまった。俺だって何もわからないよ。すべては闇の中だ。
This old gentleman was one of those leaders who had been entrusted with the business group that Ava had built up after she passed away. The one he called chairman was the former chairman Ushiromiya Ava. His company once had friendly ties with Hideyoshi's business, and he had had a close relationship with both Hideyoshi and Ava. For that reason, when Ava lost Hideyoshi, he became the only person to whom Ava might have let her true intentions slip. Whenever Ava's heart was torn by the loss of her family, whenever she took it out on Ange, he had acted as a buffer between the two. So although Ange didn't trust him, she found him a very easy person to question.
あの事件は、いや、事故か。
No, it's a crime. I'm pretty sure there's, some criminality behind it for
事件なん
sure.
て言っちまったら怒られちまうな。
No, get in trouble. I'll also call it a
そ
crime.
れは俺も世間やワイドショーと同じ程度の疑問は持ったさ。
どうしてエヴァおばさんは事故当時、屋敷から2キロも離れたところにたった一人で、それも嵐の晩に。
当時、金蔵さんは次の跡継ぎに誰を選ぶかで迷われていた。表向きは長男のクラウスさんってことになってたんだが、クラウスさんはあまり信頼されていなかったんだ。
Well, that was the structure that had been created.
それで、親兄弟4人の中から公平に跡継ぎを決めるため、非分の謎というゲームじみた試練を課した。
それは表向きだな。おそらく金蔵さんは、初めからエヴァさんを当主跡継ぎにするつもりだったんだ。長男が跡継ぎだという自らのルールを撤回してでも、クラウスさんと違い、非常に勤勉で優秀だったエヴァさんに家を任せたかったんだ。
I don't know about all that, especially after seeing, like, the little flashbacks and stuff. I really don't know about that. Like,
非分の謎を解いた者に家督を引き継ぐなどという新ルールは、クラウスさんから次期当主の肩書きを奪うためだけの茶番だったんだろうな。
茶番ってどういう意味ですか？
あの非分は誰にも解ける必要はなかったのさ。
I don't know about all that either.
適当に刑事期間を経た後、本当に金蔵さんが後を継がせたかったエヴァさんを呼び出し、その答えを与えるだけでいい。つまり、それこそが当主継承の証ってわけさ。
それは、ワイドショーでは言われていない話ですね。
まあ、当主継承がうんぬんなんて話をしたら、余計陰謀説が優勢になっちゃうからね。俺もバカじゃないからさ、誤解を招くようなことはわざわざ口にしないよ。
This was his theory. At that time, Ushiromiya family head, Kinzo, or the family head Kinzo, whose remaining life was announced to be short, was troubled by the problem of who was to succeed him. Normally, the successor would be fixed as the oldest son Kraus, whom Kinzo had chosen himself. But in his later years, Kinzo began to think that Ava would make a more fitting family head. However, Kinzo, who was stubborn even against himself, was stymied by the title of success. I have no idea what that word is. Title of successor that he had already given to Kraus. And he had searched for an official stance by which he could skip over Kraus and select Eva as his successor. The only way that I can think of this working is the way that Eva and Hideyoshi were able to give Kraus the slip. You know, by having George, they were able to have a son first. And she was also to do some wild convincing to bring Hideyoshi into the family rather than Eva leave the Ushiromiya family. So she was cunning, but he still had that structure. That official stance was the riddle of the epitaph. The primary successor was still Kraus, but there was a new rule saying that if someone appeared who could solve the riddle, they would be chosen as the successor to the headship. Then, on what would probably be his final family conference, Kinzo told Eva the answer to that riddle himself. In short, it was the same as proclaiming that Eva herself was the successor.
エヴァさんはあの日、金蔵さんに呼ばれ、それを打ち明けられたんだ。そして、当主を引き継ぐため、当主だけが知る隠し館であるクワドリアンにエヴァさんを呼びつけたのだ。
で、一足早くその隠し館で待っていたエヴァおばさんは、そのおかげで事故の難を逃れた、と？エヴァおばさんが全ての財産を奪うために、事故を装ってみんなを殺し、
Okay, so
自
the
分だけ
hidden
難を逃れ
mansion.
ただけかもしれない。
So he had mentioned that she was found 2 kilometers away from everybody else. That's quite a distance. That has to be the mansion that Beatrice, human Beatrice, was locked away at. That could actually be factual, that after everybody died, she just went over there. She just found that mansion. But to find it accidentally like that is a little strange.
大衆紙はそう騒いでるな。だが、俺はエヴァさんを信じてるよ。信ずるに足るポイントがいくつかあると思ってる。
例えば？
今エンジェちゃんが指に通してるその後ろ宮家当主の指輪だよ。その指輪は金蔵さんが特別に作らせた世界に一つしかない指輪だ。そして今エンジェちゃんが指にしているものは間違いなくそれだと作った細工師も認めてる。
The Ushiromiya family head's ring. That ring, with the heft of gold and the one-winged seal on it, had a diamond arranged on a pedestal, and felt both sturdy and reminiscent of the dark hobbies of the rich. Kinzo had worn that on his finger without removing it even for a moment. This man was saying that the fact that Eva had it proved that Kinzo had acknowledged her as the successor.
その指輪
Or
は
she
確かに
stole
エヴ
it,
ァ
you
さんが
know?
持つからこそ。そして実際にエヴァさんが優秀で、クラウスさんにはビジネスシーンでの数々の醜態が知られていたことを加味すると、エヴァさんの話は全くの作り話とは思えないんだ。
その指輪を奪うためにおじい様を殺害した可能性だってあるけれど、そしてエヴァおばさんは何らかの細工をして事故に見せかけて一族を皆殺しにした。
そうだな。大衆氏は財産の独り占めが目当てで一族を皆殺しにしたなんて言ってるようだな。確かにエヴァさんはここ一番では随分思い切ったこともしちゃう人だよ。あるいは後ろ宮家の財産を独り占めできるチャンスに生涯でただ一度の殺人を犯したかもしれない。だがね、俺はそうは思わない。
そう信ずるに足るポイントの2つ目は？
エヴァさんのご家族だよ。秀吉さんにジョージ君、エンジェちゃんはにわかには信じがたいだろうけど、エヴァさんはあれでかなり家族を大事にする人だったんだ。
Exactly. And I believe it. From the way she's acted in all of the episodes, especially in episode 2. Remember? Whenever what she said to Shannon? Like, she really cared for her family, and she wanted her family to go in great directions. She was just on it for sure. But you could also say that that's using, that's fuel. That's gunpowder right there. But I don't know. It is very, very difficult to imagine that she's the one who committed the murders of Hideyoshi and George. I mean, come on. True, part of me didn't want to believe it or acknowledge it, but I did understand vaguely. Aunt Ava certainly had been a person who highly treasured her family. After all, the root of her twisted personality had been nothing more than the sadness of losing her beloved husband and son. After getting hit with her angry outbursts as she tried to distract herself from that pain, I had no feelings of sympathy at all. But it's not like I can't imagine how the incredible shock of losing her whole family must have changed her character. So she experienced...
家族を愛したエヴァおばさんが夫と息子を見捨てるわけがないと?
She experienced this loss of her family. It did negatively affect her, and we have now multiple people saying that 100% happened. So, would someone who purposely killed their family later feel regret for doing so? You know? Or, I guess a better way of saying it or asking the question is, somebody who killed her entire family, including her husband and son, who she cared the most for, would feel regret just for, or maybe not regret, but would feel something, anguish, whatever, for losing those two. You know? We could just argue insanity, but I don't know.
そうだ。もし本当にエヴァさんが犯人で、一族を事故に見せかけて皆殺しにしたならば、夫と息子が絶対に生き残ってるはずなんだ。
That's why I was thinking that, and I was predicting, I'm pretty sure I was predicting, that George and Hideyoshi would be spared. They would make it to the end, but they didn't. They both didn't.
偶然、自分の家族だけが隠し館にいたとへりくつをこねてね。もし秀吉さんとジョージ君も無事だったなら、さすがの俺でもエヴァさんの陰謀を疑ったろうよ。俺は、秀吉さんの葬儀で見せたエヴァさんのあの号泣を演技だなんて到底思えんね。
どっちも状況証拠的ですね。エヴァおばさんの潔白を物理的に示すには至らない。
それを言っちゃおしまいだよ。生き残ったのはエヴァさんのみ。その彼女が、それが真実だと言うんだからさ。
でも、彼女の潔白は誰にも証明できない。
And nobody can prove that she's guilty either.
ああ、そうさ。そして彼女の犯行も、誰にも証明できない。そして、信ずるべきポイントの最後が、警察だ。何しろ、派手な事件だったからね。陰謀説を騒ぐ世論に後押しされて、警察が随分とエヴァさんを調べたはずさ。
It was easy to feel something unnatural about the claim that Ava had avoided the accident by coincidence, because she alone had escaped to a hidden mansion. Furthermore, at the time, Hideyoshi's company had been right in the middle of a takeover struggle, and in order to buy off the big stockholders, she wanted a large sum of cash. It shouldn't be too hard to find a motive there. But as a matter of fact, there had been nothing at all that implicated Ava as she went to the family conference. Nothing unnatural was found on her that could have been used to brutally murder her family and make it look like an accident. The servants who escaped harm by being off duty on that day also stated that they hadn't seen anything strange regarding anyone related to the event, Ava included. Putting all of that together, it could only be concluded that Ushiromiya Ava had headed to Rokkenjima for a normal family conference without any change, and had encountered an accident.
警察があれだけ散々調べて事件性を見出すことができなかった。
Wait, so everybody dies on this island. What really pushes her to escape to that hidden mansion? How does she find it? Was she just running aimlessly through the woods and came across it? I guess eventually, if you try to cover all the land on the island, it's going to take a lot of time. It's not like the craziest, largest island ever, but in the woods, it's easy to get lost. And sure, square mileage wise or kilometer wise, it's not going to be too crazy, but it's still going to take time. Eventually, you'll come across it, is what I'm trying to say. among maybe some, animals or who knows what's on that island. I just find it strange, when she went to that mansion or when she tried to escape. Okay, some people are dying. She alone escapes? She leaves everybody else behind,
警察がそう断じた。
Maybe George and Hideyoshi were already killed. So at that point she escaped.
それで、ロッケン島疑惑は決着じゃないのかな。
それは単に警察は事件性を発見できなかったってだけの話じゃないんですか？
それを言い出したらキリがないな。悪魔の証明になっちまうよ。
There it is. There it fucking is.
犯罪を暴くには証拠を見つければいい。でも、無実を示すには何を見つけりゃいいんだい？消極的事実の証明は不可能だ。
エヴァおばさんが犯罪を犯したか否か。それを判断する材料が見つからないから、そのまま真相は迷宮入りということですね。
そうだな。エンジェちゃんの期待する言い方にするとそうなるな。エヴァさん自身にだって自分の無実は証明不能なのさ。あの島で不幸な事故があった。そしてたまたまエヴァさんが生き残った。しかもそれ以上のことは何もわからない。つまるところ、唯一の生存者であるエヴァさんの話を信じられるか否か。俺は信じたよ。指輪の話や彼女の尊敬できる家族愛、そして葬儀で見せた涙、それらを加味して考えて彼女の話を信じようと思ったんだ。
でも私は信じない。指輪なんて奪う気なら方法はいくらでもあるだろうし、家族仲が本当に良かったかなんて誰にもわからない。葬儀の涙が本物かなんて証明不能。
Yeah, she could just be a really good actor.
というか、私はそもそもエヴァおばさんなんて大嫌い。だから私は彼女の話を信じようなんて思わない。
What's going on with the ambience here?
事件の真相をどう見るか。俺とエンジェちゃんで真っ向から対立しちまったな。俺たちに与えられてる情報は全く同じなのに、全く異なる見解も持っちまう。
Yeah, but where they come from is completely different too. One not necessarily being a family member, but more of an associate. The other actually being a family member and being treated poorly.
こういうこと、政治や経済でもよくあるんだ。同じ事業をやっても必ず評価は分かれちまう。どうしてかわかるかい？
いいえ。
愛があるかどうかさ。
Huh?
相手に愛を感じてるかどうかで、物の見え方は全く違うってことなんだ。好きな人が貧しい人に施しをすれば尊敬できるだろう。でも嫌いな奴が施しなんて始めたら、売名行為だとか、ばらまき行政だとか、非難合々さ。何をしてもしなくても、愛があれば感謝し、愛がなければ非難する。
I guess that's kind of what I was just saying, perspective, where you're coming from.
それが世の中ってもんなんだ。
But wasn't love one of the key terms that was brought up, I think, in episode 2 and kind of carried forward? It's hard to, come up with, I don't know what to really think of that. There's also the, can you really see things sort of argument that we've been getting multiple times.
エヴァおばさんのことを信じられるか信じられないか、それだけの違いってことですか？
彼女を疑う人間には、彼女が何をしてもしなくても、それは実に不自然に見えるだろうさ。逆もしかり。俺はね、世の中には真実なんてものは、よっぽどのことがない限り、存在しないんじゃないかと思うね。いや、仮にもし、真実が存在したとしても、それを信じるか信じないかは、愛があるか否かで決められちまう。絶対性の宿らない真実なんて、真実と呼べるのかい？エヴァさんが物理的なアリバイを示したとしても、君はそれを信じられたかい？
Yeah, you could still argue that it's not enough. You can keep on pushing the envelope. It's hard to counter that. I hate on Ava, so I'll probably deny any information beneficial to her and interpret any neutral information in a negative way. In other words, the truth is already decided inside me. So just what in the world is this truth that I'm still searching for unsatisfied? You can kind of
そう
also
いうことさ。
argue that, like, in politics today, like, especially in America right now, not to get too into it because it's ugly, but, you know, a lot of people say that it's one side or the other and that you can't really run a middle road, because if you really are on that one side, then anything that the other side comes up as something that's like, okay, wait a minute, that's actually, when you think of it from a neutral standpoint, you know, something beneficial. Nope, it's not. Nope, it's bad. Everything that you come out with is just no, no, no. And I guess you can call that stubbornness in a way. Like, you are just fixated on your position no matter what.
つまり、俺から何を聞こうとも、エンジェちゃんがエヴァさんを未だ疑っている以上、何を聞いても今更何も変わらないってことなのさ。少なくとも、今のエンジェちゃんじゃ、仮に未知の新事実を掴んだとしても、真相に至ることはできんと思うね。
私では真相に至れませんか？
だって、エンジェちゃんは、どんな新情報や新証拠が見つかったって、エヴァさんが犯人だってスタンスは変えないんだろ？ならこれ以上何を調べたって意味はないじゃないか。君の中の真相はすでに決まっているわけさ。
Well, shit. Well, there we have it. In a way that kind of connects to the current ongoing, you know, plot point that we've had going on since episode 1. If there's magic or not, you know? Just straight up. Battler refuses to believe in it. To the very end. Will not believe in it. He already knows the truth deep down is that there's no magic whatsoever. But he's had so many other people, Beatrice included, obviously, showing him otherwise. Many pieces of evidence.
だがもし、エンジェちゃんがそれを真相と思わずに、さらに奥深くの本当の真相にたどり着きたいと願うなら、もう話したつもりなんだけどな。なんだかわかるかい？
愛ですか？よく意味がわからないです。
Yeah, explain further, please.
エンジェちゃんは今、エヴァさんを犯人だと仮定し、ものを考えている。でもそれじゃあ片目でものを見てるようなものなんだ。片目じゃ、どんなに目を凝らしても、ものを立体的に見ることはできないだろ？だから、もう一つ目がいるんだ。もちろん、今の目とは別の立場での。
エヴァおばさんが犯人ではない。あるいは、本当に事故であるという仮定にも基づいて、物事を見ろと。
そうそう、その通り。物事を考えるときには、異なる立ち位置から見るようにするんだ。そうじゃないと、本当のことは何もわからない。新聞だってそうさ。一つの新聞だけじゃ、その記事を書いた記者の目線一つでしかものが見られない。複数の新聞を読むことで初めて立体的かつ冷静に分析ができることもある。愛がなければ真実は見えない。いいね。
No wonder I've just been constantly confused in this goddamn story. There's no love in my cold dead heart. Maybe he thought it interesting that such a flashy phrase would pop out of his mouth. For a while he laughed, looking pleased. At the same time, he was telling me that he had said everything he knew, and that it was about time to leave. I understood that and got to my feet.
俺にもエンジェちゃんの気持ちが分かったよ。あんたが納得するようにしばらく好きにしたらいい。当時君は6歳だった。わけがわからないうちに家族を失い、未だに心の整理がつかない気持ち、よくわかるんだ。真相はわかるかもしれない、わからないかもしれない。エヴァさんは犯人かもしれないし、犠牲者かもしれない。エンジェちゃんが信じる真実が見つけられるのを祈ってるよ。若いうちの旅も貴重な経験かもしれない。
The way that he's, you know, wording truth, you know? Whether it's the actual truth in reality or not, it's different from the truth within her.
ありがとうございます。お忙しいところ、お邪魔して本当にすみませんでした。
Oh my fucking god, bro. You've got to be shitting me. I was thinking this man looked familiar, but he didn't have a big enough fucking nose. You've got to be shitting me, man. What the fuck is he doing here? What? I thought, god damn it, I thought he had the fucking, like, Australian man's nose thing going on. Fucking bird-sized shit. Or whatever. Yeah. I kind of just, was thinking in my head, I'm like, what else can I say? And then, like, I heard her say it, read what was going on there. I'm like, oh. Then heard the chime and everything. I was like, oh, shit. Okay. All right. Yeah, let's see it. Let's see it. What the fuck? Why is that his fucking thing? All right. Okanogi, what have you been up to? A major player in the Ushiromiya group, after Ava's death and until Ange succeeds the group, he and the other ministers are the ones managing it. However, since Ange has no desire to do so, the group is on the brink of internal discord, putting him in a difficult position as well. He was previously the president of a foodstuff distribution company, and had a very close relationship with Hideyoshi's company. Because of that long-lasting association, Ava particularly trusted him, and he was appointed to a significant post in the group. What the fuck? Alright. I guess let's read all of these because I don't think we've read the Ange side before. We have Ava, after being repeatedly hospitalized from psychogenic stress. She is already dead in the world of 1998 due to acute heart failure. The only survivor from Rokkenjima, she lived her later years in isolation with no one to understand her. The media gave her the name Queen of Suspicion. She continued on a path of reckless expansion like Kinzo had done in the past, and made many enemies. In her later years, she seemed to do this repeatedly, as if she found it funny. And at that point, it was no longer for economic reasons, but simply to harass. And all of this was for the sake of Ange, who would eventually succeed her. Then there's Ange, threw herself off the top of a skyscraper and miraculously survived unharmed. Her mystical experience led her to abandon everything and go on a personal journey to discover her past. Will she, positioned 12 years in the future, be able to break through Beatrice's magical power? Maybe. Nothing new on the witch side. It's arced a little weird here. We have Maria in the middle of it all. But, okay. But you know what? I like the way that it's actually... I don't know why it's grouped the way it is. Because we know that Bernkenstill is now on Ange's side and Lambda Delta is on Beatrice's side. Bernkenstill was trying to help us, the player, I was assuming. But Ange, the endless witch who will live for the next 1,000 years, or the witch hunter to slay all witches. Without understanding witches, one will never slay a witch. After understanding witches, she never will one slay a witch. What? She understands witches and denies them. This contradictory power alone gives her the blade to slay. Yeah, that honestly, her whole fucking description here confused the shit out of me. Okay, we know Bernkenstill. I don't think anything is new here. We know Lambda Delta. There's Beatrice herself, which I really don't think anything is new here, but I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, let me know, please. Then there's Maria. What is she doing here? A little mage who has inherited the black blood from Kinzo. Unlike Kinzo, she was gifted with natural talent and began to tread the path of the mage while still young. That said, her power is still weak, and she is no more than an apprentice. However, she is skilled with enchantments, which bestow magical power upon objects, and the magical items she creates compete with those of the Meister class. Does that explain her stuffed animal? Maybe? Then there's the human side, which I really doubt anything's different here at this time, but here it is, and obviously Ange is not present. Okay. I think there's also something in the tips from the previous episode, or previous video. Both of these. These caramels, the Japanese confectionery company Glico, also famous for producing Pocky, began its business in 1992 with boxes of Glico caramels, which featured art of a running man triumphantly smiling with his arms raised. The marketing was that a single caramel gives you the energy to run 300 meters. If that was the case, holy shit, honestly, that'd be sick. The Glico running man became an iconic trademark and mascot that the company still uses today. And then we have Shotoku Taishi, or Prince Shotoku, from 574 to 622, not really a long life there, is extremely culturally influential Japanese regent depicted on the old 5,000 yen and 10,000 yen Japanese banknotes issued from 1958 to 1986. His name was used to refer to those notes informally. In modern Japan, in modern Japan, 10,000 yen notes are sometimes referred to as yukichi, after Fukuzawa Yukichi, the figure on the new 10,000 yen banknote that entered circulation in 1984. Sorry for missing those tips. I was actually reminded, I think by a Discord member, that hey, green text, remember tips. It's been a while, guys. Come on.
言って言って。これからどうするんだ？
まあ適当に。事件関係者やその道の専門家ってやつに何人かアポを入れてるので、そちらを当たるつもりです。
そうか。納得のいく答えが見つかるといいな。
I can't believe this shit though. I really can't. But if anything, guys, like, I don't know how you guys feel about Okanogi. I know Okanogi, that son of a bitch. He's in it for himself. It's really just that. And for him to climb to where he currently is, after everything that he went through, and I'm not going to explain further, just in case, spoilers, but it does show that he was able to stay out of trouble, and he was able to rebound and continue to just be high up somewhere, He's just still in it somewhere, somehow, And I don't trust him one bit. At that time, company president Okanogi's secretary came in, handing him a memo over his shoulder. He read it and then looked between it and my face.
Angeちゃん、旅に出てごらんと言った矢先で申し訳ないんだが、耳に入れといた方がいい情報だ。君、今だいぶやばいらしいね。
私の金を狙ってる連中ですか？だからお金なんてくだらない。
だからって財産丸ごと売っ払って、全額を福祉に寄付しようなんてしたら、エンジェちゃんの財産で川残用してる連中が目ん玉飛び出しちまうよ。
ああ、スマデラの家ですか。
Oh, back to that?
あいつら、何を偉そうに保護者面して。
I haven't forgotten Aunt Ava. There's no way I'll put myself in the care of the Sumadera family. They probably want to, as Aunt Ava often threatened in the past. Cut off my arms and legs, throw me in a warehouse, and suck the Ushiromiya family's wealth dry.
スマデラ家の使いがここに来るそうだ。
Oh, lovely.
君を引き渡せと。いやいや、保護したいと言ってるな。
使いって？
君のおばだよ。キリエさんの妹さんだ。君のことを妹のように思っていると前に話してたな。
ご冗談。せめて孫と言ってよ、あのババア。
文脈から見るに、君の意思は聞く気がないようだ。地下2階の駐車場に車が待たせてある。行きなさい。
スマデラの家から引き渡せって言われてるんでしょ？いいの？私を行かせて。
エンジェちゃんはきっと将来大物になるよ。この歌詞はその時の出世払いってことにしとこう。行きな、早く。
This fucking guy. After bowing silently and deeply, Ange left that place at a dash. After watching her leave, the female secretary straightened her glasses and whispered,
スマデラ家からは足止めをしておくように言われていますが、行かせてよろしいのですか？
足止めならしたよ、十分に。それに間に合わないのはスマデラの過失だね。エンジェちゃんには逃げろと言ったし、スマデラにはエンジェちゃんが来てるよと通報したし、捕まっても捕まらなくても双方に恨まれない。
and, as we can probably tell here, he's trying to do things in the best interest of himself.
愛だね。大丈夫。逃げおせるよ。何しろ追ってまくためにビルから飛び降りられる子だからね。
Okanogi looked down again through a crack in the blinds. Nope, definitely couldn't do it. Uh-huh. Ange wasn't a fool herself. She got off the elevator, but on the 3rd floor. A taxi in the 2nd level of the basement? That's so neat and clean that I don't like it. And it's probably better to refuse for now. But my enemies aren't fools either. They're probably waiting in the 1st floor lobby as well as the underground parking lot. It's such a massive building. Instead of getting anxious and escaping outside, maybe it's better to stay inside and wait it out. No, that's useless. If they get their hands on a security room in a modern building like this, I'll have nowhere to run. This entire building is like a massive dead end. The third floor is the business floor. A young girl like me will clearly stick out. Trying not to stand out any more than I had to, I walked at a brisk pace, searching for an emergency exit. It would be perfect if that staircase was an outside one. I found the door to the emergency exit. After opening that heavy door, I found the outside staircase I'd hoped for. I bumped into a man who looked like an employee skipping work and smoking a cigarette. After glaring at me, he quickly crushed out his cigarette and went away. It looked like there was no one below. If I'm gonna escape, now's my only chance. What the fuck? Just when I thought that, a black car slid right under me and came to a sudden stop with incredible squealing of the tires. Judging by the sound of tires, it seemed that they had several other allies, and that one of them had come here to block this path.
かすみおばさん、やるじゃない。非常口から出てくるメイにまで送迎車を送るなんて。
The doors of the car were forcefully opened and 3 black-suited men jumped out, looking up at the emergency staircase. Crap, our eyes met. Oh, so much for that.
マルタイ発見。北西側非常階段3階。応援遅れ。エンジェ様、そこを動かれませんように。ご無礼を失礼します。
The 3 of them began to clamber up the emergency exit. They've already announced that they plan to be rough. This is pretty bad. As long as I don't stop breathing, they've probably been ordered to grab me no matter what, even if they gotta rip out one of my arms. Jesus. Their heavy, wild footsteps became a helix and began to rise from the lower floors, getting closer. Well, we're boned. In the entrance lobby of the building, a woman with 7 black-suited guards behind her advanced at a leisurely pace. Seeing this ostentatious entrance, the security guards for the building ran up to them, asking if they had an appointment. Oh boy.
名乗らせなければ相手の格もわからない。
失礼いたしました。当社ではご来賓の皆様にはフロントにてセキュリ。
下がれ。下船が。私はお前たちの社長に呼ばれてきたんだよ。おこのぎ哲郎を呼んでおいで。呼びつけておいて出迎えもないとはね。これだから東京人は。
これは失礼。ようこそ後宮グループへ。妻寺かすみさん。
Oh, we got a new character that we get to read about here. Alright. This is Sumidera Kasumi, daughter of the declining noble family Sumidera, Ushiromiya Kirie's younger sister. She hates her sister Kirie so much that she loathes everything about her, so she also strongly hates Ange. She is the opposite of the freewheeling person Kirie was and holds appearances in high regard, possessing a strong ambition for philanthropy. However, that is nothing more than a manifestation of her complex towards her sister, there we go, causing her to crave the limelight. There are several opposing factions in the Sumidera family, and they are constantly engaged in a secret feud over who will control the vast wealth Ange holds. Yeah, sounds very healthy. With his secretary behind him, Okunogi dashingly appeared from the elevator. Even though both of them wore bold smiles, they were wrapped in a tension reminiscent of the smell of gunpowder.
エンジェはどこ？姉さんのかわいい姪を迎えに来たのよ、私は。
後宮グループでは時間厳守がモットーでしてな。時間を守れない人間は契約も守れないってのが先代会長のお言葉でして。
東京まで呼びつけてなんてざまなの？逃がしたわね。
逃げられたと言ってもらいたいですな。これでも随分足止めはしたんです。さすがに蹴取られましてね。妻寺さんが時間通りに来てくれれば問題はなかったのですが、これだから地方人はルーズで困るんです。
What has happened to this man?
今なんと、この私になんと。
You couldn't sense any of Kirie's open frankness in Kasumi's face. She wore the arrogance of the ancient Sumidera family towards the ruined Ushiromiya family, as well as pride because she didn't want anyone to notice that her family was declining so much that they couldn't ignore the Ushiromiya family's wealth. Even at a glance, it was easy to understand why Ange hated her aunt so deeply. She couldn't stand even a slight insult, and though she still smiled, her eyebrows twitched. At that time, the black-suited man behind Kasumi whispered to her,
エンジ様を発見しました。対応中です。
あら、間に合ってよかった。ありがとうね、お好み。ようやくやんちゃな名誉を連れて帰れそうだわ。私、あの子と一緒にゆっくりとお茶室で語らいたくて、お
Tools?
道具まで準備して待ってたんだから。
What the fuck? I didn't think tools were needed in a tea room. As the violent sound drew a helix, it rushed up at me from below, threatening to swallow me up. Of course, even if I fight, there's no way I'll be able to win. And yet running into the building would be like jumping into a dead end of my own accord. My enemies will increase in number with time. If I don't do something here and now, I won't have any more chances to escape. Then 3 muscular black-suited men came into view below me. 1, 2, 3. 3 people. In other words, everyone who had gotten out of the car. If there had been just one of them, I might have been able to drop-kick them or something and smash them in the head, which might work out. But it really would be impossible with 3 of them. Wait, 3? If there's just 3, I should be able to make it. I can do it. We jumping off the building again? What's she doing? Oh, she did. She jumped off.
01より12。確保したか？応答どうした？応答しろ！なんてやつだ。
See? That worked out perfectly, didn't it? There was just 3 of them after all. I've already tried that once from a higher place. I knew I'd be able to jump down just 3 floors. It's a good thing the car they came in was right beneath me. Even if it wasn't as pleasant as a trampoline, it broke my fall. A little gently, a little roughly.
失礼しちゃうわ。ここまでへこむこともないだろう。
The roof of the car broke my fall, leaving a massive dent around my body. Car roofs are surprisingly delicate. I don't think it's because of my weight. Apparently the 3 people on the stairs hadn't planned on me jumping down. It seemed they now realized that they had been outwitted and they were rushing down the stairs. I've got to run and escape while I have the chance. I moved my body, making clunking sounds on the car roof. But I had been naive. Of course, they wouldn't all rush up the stairs without leaving one person behind. There was one black-suited man left in the driver's seat of the car that had broken my fall. He stuck his head out the window, and when he realized what had fallen on him, he jumped out. In a rush, I jumped off the roof, but the black-suited man's reaction was really fast. Either there was a massive reward for capturing me, or there'd be some harsh punishment in store for them if they let me get away.
15、確保、確保。
気安く触らないで。
I was mercilessly held down against the asphalt. I was being crushed face down, covered and pressed upon from above. It was a hold without a trace of elegance, but it was extremely practical and left me no room for resistance. I tried to push back with both hands, searching for a way to resist, but I was being pushed down solidly, and I couldn't even tear myself off the asphalt. Then another car came, squealing its tires as it slid to a sudden stop. Is it all over now? The man that had been crushing me let out a sharp cry. He was yelling straight into my ear, making my left ear ring. What in the world? Who's here now? Along with the black suit guy, I fell with a thunk. After landing face up, the first thing I saw was an arm stuck out right in front of my eyes.
天草、あんたどうしてここに？
Who are all these goddamn
その
people?
話は巻いてからにしましょうぜ。お嬢、車へ早く。
Amakusa grabbed my arm, easily pulled me up, spinning me around with himself as the center of gravity. Just when I thought it was a little like a dance, he flung me through the open door into the driver's seat. I climbed over the handbrake and slid into the passenger seat. Pushing me in, Amakusa also got into the driver's seat. Since we suddenly accelerated while I was still on all fours, I had to kick and struggle around on the chair for a while like a turtle that's been flipped over. Amakusa checked the rearview mirror for cars in pursuit, but he flew into the artery of the big city without lowering his speed in the slightest. This is some wild shit, man. We sewed our way between cars one after another, just like a chase scene in some action movie. I was shaken by this horrible driving and had trouble sitting back down.
お嬢、お怪我は?
Yeah, probably.
問題ないわ。人間って案外頑丈よ。私、次からは下りのエレベーターを逃したら、窓から飛び降りることにするわ。
お嬢の趣味はエアダイブらしいや。ただ、次からは落下傘をつけることをお勧めしますぜ。
Nah, it's too slow.
飛び降りた後に思い出せたらね。
Cool. He smacked the steering wheel, guffawing. Need an explanation for this flippantly talking man? Yeah. His name is Amakusa Juza, and I just heard the noise, barely. Alright, who's this guy? Apparently he is connected to Okanogi. So he's a former guard of Ava's, an extreme thrill seeker who accepts dangerous jobs for little pay. He had served as Ange's bodyguard before, but after he broke Ava's strict order not to talk to Ange countless times, Ava ultimately took a dislike to him and let him go. Ange herself didn't find him all that bad because he was someone that she could talk to. JSDF, Foreign Legion, private military companies, this man has traveled them all, and has skills in counter-sniping and escorting VIPs. Oh, there we go. He was originally one of Aunt Ava's guards. Didn't she start to hate him because he chatted too much? He was much younger than the rest of the guards, but contrary to his outward flippancy, he had hopped from the 1st Airborne of the JSDF to the French Foreign Legion, placing himself in overseas private military companies and high-class security companies one after another, making for a pretty incredible and unique career. But I heard he deserted both the JSDF and the French Foreign Legion, and that he'll be arrested if he enters France again. Both of these flippant episodes were very typical of him. The guards were certainly told not to chat with me unnecessarily, but he came and took a pass at me, didn't he? Aunt Ava was apparently particularly put off by that, and had supposedly dismissed him shortly before she died.
その軽口が懐かしいわ。クビになった後はどうしてたの？
ブラックウォーターでエクササイズの指導を。休暇で帰国したら、小此木社長に高給を提示されまして。
で、また脱走？こんな男、何の役に立つのかしら。
来週までに帰りゃ脱走にはなりませんので。話があったのは昨日です。お嬢が厄介な連中を呼び込むかもしれないと言われまして。
まさにその通りで申し訳ないわね。
お嬢と面識があってドタバタの経験も豊富ってことでご指名が来たんでしょうぜ。お嬢のおかげでハッピーな休暇と小遣い稼ぎになりそうです。
小此木さんがあんたを私の護衛に雇ったってこと？
Explains the line that was connecting him to Okanogi in that graph rather than the, or that chart, rather than a connection to Ava in some sort of way.
お嬢に恩を売りたいんでしょうぜ。首の後、お好みの社長にはいろいろと世話になってましてね。いろいろと弱みを握られてんで逆らえんのですわ。
はあ、小此木さんの世話になると後々で高くつきそうね。で、あんたは私をどこに連れて行くつもりなの？
どちらへでも。
This music is fucking nuts, by the way. What the
週
fuck?
末までは雇われてます。それ以降は別料金で。
1日いくら
5万で手を打ちます。経費は別ですぜ。
軽口を叩かないなら倍払うわ。
Oh, buddy, you've got it in
雇
now.
用期間は未定。
But you better shut the fuck
何週
up.
間かになるかも。
そりゃ大変だ。ボスに休暇の延長を電話しねえとなりませんぜ。
私、どうしてもあの日のことが調べたいの。
ああ、例のロッケン島の。
It's probably the only thing she ever talks about.
そうよ。12年前にあの島で何があったのか、私の手で納得がいくように調べたいの。
そんな昔のことを今さら調べて今さら新しい発見がありますかね。
そうね。だからこれは私の自己満足のための旅なのよ。それを終えたらネギでも背負ってスマデラの家に行くわ。かすみおばさん、私にお抹茶をご馳走したいとか言ってたっけ。角材の上に正座させられて石でも抱かされながらのお茶かしら。
そりゃおっかねえや。
Yeah, it doesn't sound all that fun, honestly. Sounds like a rough time.
申し訳ございません。見失いました。
Yep, you lose.
仲間と思われる男が一人、脱出を援護。スタンガン所持、運転技術その他から見て、素人ではありません。
そう。ありがとう。残念よ、おこのぎ。これがあなたのお返事だということでよろしいかしら。
逃がしたのはあんたのヘマだ。俺の知ったこっちゃないね。
あなたにもぜひ今度
Do
お
not
抹
accept
茶
it,
をご
man.
馳走
Don't
したい
do
わ
it.
ね。京都においでの際にはぜひお立ち寄りなさいな。行くわよ。
あれ、もう帰っちまうのかい。お茶漬けでも食っていけばいいのに。
Oh man. We have another tip. I gotta know what that is. So, chazuke, known as bubuzuke in Kyoto, where Sumadera Kasumi is from, is green tea poured over rice with savory toppings. It is said that in Kyoto, offering chazuke to a guest is often not meant sincerely, but is merely a way of indicating in a roundabout fashion that it is time for the guest to leave and the guest is expected to know when to refuse. Effectively, in this scene, Tetsuro brazenly steals a phrase from Kasumi's own cultural roots to tell her not to let the door hit her on the way out. All right. Okay. With her back still facing Okonogi, she laughs softly, but with an increasingly shrill and hateful tone, using that as a substitute for a sharp parting remark. Just as she stopped laughing, her features suddenly changed to look like a demon's. But because her back was facing him, Okonogi couldn't see that expression. Okonogi watched her go, laughing coolly. His secretary whispered over his shoulder.
よろしいのですか。エンジェお嬢様は我が社の筆頭株主です。スマデラ家が後見人になれば。
知ってる。だがな、うちも天下の後ろ宮だ。舐められてたまるかってんだ。しかしあいつうまく立ち回ってくれたようだな。あとはエンジェちゃんの好きにさせるさ。頼むぜ天草。
霞様、逃走車両はレンタル、提示した免許証は偽装とのこと。明らかにプロです。おそらく車両は放棄するでしょう。追跡は困難です。警察に追わせますか。
そうね。家出娘の捜索願いでも出そうかしら。税金を納めてるんだもの。警察にもたまには役に立ってもらわなきゃ。母上に私にお任せをと単価を切ってお屋敷を出てきたんですよ。
Wait a minute, what the fuck?
あなた、私にさらに恥をかかせるおつもり？あんたらまとめてお抹茶を振る舞った方が良さそうね。地下のお茶室は狭いから順番待ちの行列になっちゃうかしら。
Why is the tea room underground?
全力で捜索します。
ああ、本当に可愛い子ね。姉さんに本当にそっくり。自分勝手で自由奔放なあたりが本当にそっくり。ああ、もう姉さんにしか見えなくなってきたわ。本当に楽しみよ。姉さんの娘をお茶室にお招きできるなんてね。
Okay. I have many questions, but
スマデラ家、動きが早かったわね。
but there was something there. There was something there that struck me as very odd. But also, like, this isn't somebody we know, right? That character, we've never met them before, right? Until now, we've never heard of them before. There's something like inside my small brain that's like itching at me hard Just a lot of the things that were said felt oddly familiar. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. And if that's the case, then okay, whatever. And maybe I'm a little on the crazy side, but I don't know. Just something fucking worried me there, you know? Just something's odd. Something is not right. But whatever. We'll look into that, you know, next time. But yeah, we'll wrap up this session here. This one was probably the most different session that we've ever gone through, you know? Like, sure, we've had crazy debates between, you know, beings that shouldn't exist. We've had a shonen, you know, showdown. But here, this was just grounded in some sort of weird way that just didn't feel like this was Umineko. Very odd. And Okanogi making appearance, him coming back, you know? I didn't expect it. But I will say, I knew he was still around, and that he was still in the series somewhere. I don't know if that's a spoiler whatsoever, but I knew he was still around. I just didn't think he was here in Umineko to any degree. So that was quite the surprise. That totally got me off guard. But yeah, we'll wrap it up here. Thank you all for coming out and watching this one. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, all that fancy jazz, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy.